Did you have some?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Just to follow up on the discussion of the Iraq War, none of us wants to plunge ourselves into counterfactual histories about what if. And so all we have is the record of what did occur. And when you stand here and tell us that Iraq today now has the option for a chance for a much better future than her past, that is, as a matter of factual history, only possible because President Bush decided to launch this war and send all these heroic servicemen and women into this mission. And so if credit is due to those servicemen and women, it seems to me a matter of logic that some credit would also be due to President Bush and his advisors, and that on this occasion, do you not see it that way?
James, I would simply take up your first proposition that engaging in counterfactuals about what might have happened had we not gone to war in search of weapons of mass destruction that didn't exist, what would have happened. There is no question, as I made clear in several answers, that the President believes that Iraq has the potential for a better future today because of the remarkable sacrifice and service of American men and women in uniform, as well as civilian American men and women who served in Iraq. And that is without question and without doubt. It is impossible to know, obviously, what course would have occurred in Iraq had the inspections regime continued, had different choices been made. That was not, obviously, the world that the President inherited when he took office in January of 2009. The world he inherited was one that included America at war in two places, in two countries, with, I believe, in excess of 130,000 troops in combination, Iraq and Afghanistan. And he set in motion policy objectives that included winding down responsibly the war in Iraq, refocusing our attention on the war in Afghanistan, which, after all, was the war that we launched because we were attacked on September 11th, 2001. He did both, and he is now, having ended the war in Iraq, winding down the war in Afghanistan. So it really is. All these questions are very interesting, and I think the anniversary is an appropriate time to begin asking them. But I think historians will make the assessments about the policy judgments made by the administration that was in power at the time. The President had very clearly stated views as a candidate for Senate and very clearly stated views as a candidate for President that were judged and evaluated by the American people. He had very clear policy positions that he promised to implement if he were elected, and he has done so.
But it sounds to me, listening to you, that for what you called the quote-unquote welcome development of Saddam Hussein being gone, you are unwilling to accord President George W. Bush even a single iota of credit for that development.
I'm happy to do that, James. I think the focus on doing that is unique here in this briefing, but there is no question that Saddam Hussein was removed from power thanks to the military efforts of U.S. armed forces, and they were sent to Iraq by President Bush. So obviously there's a causal relationship, and to the extent that credit is due to him for that. That does not change, I think, assessments made by this President as a candidate or by many others on this day, 10 years after, about the judgments made to go to war in Iraq and to invade the country. And Americans obviously will continue to have differing views on this, appropriately so, and this will be a matter of discussion and debate for a long time, I expect, in Washington as well as in classrooms and among historians. But the President's views as a candidate and as President are very clear. His commitments when it comes to policy have been very clear, and they have been followed through on. He believes that when he promised the American people to end the war in Iraq, he owed them to fulfill that promise, and he has. Yes, April.
Jay, the most recent recession blamed in part on the financing of the war in Iraq. Is there any tentacle from the financing of the Iraq war that affects this current economic situation that this country is in?
Well, I'm not sure. Just to be clear, I think the record deficits that President Obama inherited were in part due to the unpaid for wars that he inherited. I'm not sure that the recession itself economists would have a better assessment was caused by the spending on those wars. There's no question, war or wars, there's no question that to go back to my first point, that the record deficits that President Obama inherited when he took office in the midst of a financial collapse and what would become the Great Recession and threatened to become a depression, contribute to our fiscal challenges today, no question. The president said back in his campaign in 2008 and many times I'm sure since that that put us, tax cuts, 2 massive tax cuts that were unpaid for, 2 wars that were unpaid for, everything put on a credit card, led to a situation where the United States had a country that had a budget surplus, and surpluses as far as the eye could see. In January of 2001, just 8 years later, was a country that had the largest deficits in its history. So, that again, much as an answer to James's question, the president took office, and these were the facts that he had to deal with, both in terms of the financial crisis, the deficits he inherited, and the wars that were ongoing when he took office. And he applied his best judgments in dealing with all of the challenges that this country faced, and the American people obviously will and have made their assessments about those decisions, and historians will make assessments into the future, as will journalists.
So let me clarify, because I'm hearing things, but I'm not getting an answer. I'm sorry.
Really?
So I'm sorry.
That's pretty good,
But
right?
it was pretty good for you.
As an aircraft, it was clearer than the Syria answer, right?
Oh, so you recognize?
No, I'm just having some fun here.
All right. So you're saying indirectly that the president is dealing with deficits now?
I'm simply, I apologize, I just wanted to make clear that I'm not sure economists would agree that the recession was caused by the profligate spending in the previous administration.
I said in part.
Well, again, that would be for economists to decide. There's no question that the deficits the president inherited, which have exacerbated the fiscal challenges that we face, were due to, in part, the unpaid for spending on the war in Iraq as well as the war in Afghanistan.
So you're saying that
no question.
deficits, okay, thank you.